Last time we talked about these, they were at 2x16 at 6400 megahertz. I think they were CL32 or something like that. But this time we have a bit of a difference. These are KLEVV URBANE VRGB 2x16 at 6000 megahertz, but CL28. So in that sense, what I'm going to do today is there are going to be two types of tests in terms of different setup. So we're having 9800 X3D paired up with the ASRock X870 live mixer and AMD Ryzen 9 7900 X3D with Tomahawk B650M. So it's going to be different to see those, and it's going to be interesting, of course, to see those benchmarks. But before we go, I would really like to go a bit and discuss everything about these RAMs, because first and foremost, they look really outstanding. Clean lines, clean design, and the quality when you're checking out the material and the final finish is just remarkable. I mean, I said that already in the past video. I'm going to repeat that again, but just to give you an idea, if you haven't watched that video, this is something really nice. And when you take into consideration, they are a bit heavier. They feel like a bit heavier just because they have these type of passy heatsinks that really cool down them properly. Now, discussing that, we have slick round edges and linear grooves that increase cooling efficiency, unique light guides which they have that diffused LED at the top, so you don't have individual LEDs, and the top part has double beam RGB, so that looks really nice. It supports Asus Aura Sync, Gigabyte RGB Fusion, MSI Mystic Lights, ASRock Polychron Sync software, which is basically a software that is for your motherboard for syncing out the RGB throughout all components that are connected to the board. They have height only at 42.5 millimeters, which actually gives you a flexibility to match them with air coolers that, big air coolers that usually take up loads of space, or basically any AAO, so you won't have any issues with that. Now, on-die ECC to protect data integrity, and PMIC to manage power requirements. And we have Intel XMP 3.0 and AMD EXPO for one-click overclocking and for compatibility. Now, what they do usually, rigorous tests for ensuring that the highest quality and reliability is delivered to the end consumer, and that's really good. And of course, they tested out with QVL or qualified vendor list for mainstream motherboards. So you can check that list in the description and it will give you all the details, and of course individual motherboards that have QVL to check it out, and you'll most likely find these over there. So I'm saying this. You have 6000 megahertz coming with CL28 and CL30. Other combinations are capacity of 16 times 2, 24 times 2, and 32 times 2 with voltage of 1.4 volts. The dimensions are 138.95 times 42.5 times 8.2 millimeters, but you can go up to 8400 megahertz, which is insane, because if you're not aiming for a lower latency of CL and you really want to have those speeds, you can just choose whatever you wish, because you have loads of varieties, and on their official website you can find the exact details, specifications, taking into consideration the clock speeds and the latency and, well, the capacity. So it's all up to you to decide which are most suitable for you, but regardless of that, we have the CL28 today. So let's deep dive into those benchmarks, because I really want to give you those numbers just to see how everything performs. So we're going to start with 9800 X3D and that ASRock X870 live mixer. So in AIDA 64, read speeds go up to 79,178 megabytes per second, which is quite solid for 6000 megahertz. Write speeds 80,699 megabytes, and copy 65,275 megabytes. It should be a bit higher here on the copy, but that's okay. You'll see later on what happens. And the latency is 75.9 nanoseconds. Now we need to go to 7900 X3D immediately, because read speeds are 76,827, write speeds are 77,513, and copy is much better than with 9800 X3D with 69,824. Latency is better, 73.1. Now if we compare these to the old ones that I reviewed, the latency is much better, because on the old ones it was 82.6. So that's 7 or even 9 nanoseconds better. AIDA AES 374,591 megabytes per second for 7900X3D, 264,126 megabytes per second. Indigo Benchmark Bedroom 3.782 million samples per second, while the supercar is 7.967 million samples per second. Indigo Benchmark Bedroom is 3.614 million samples per second, while the supercar is 8.044 million samples per second. Corona 10, we have 8,012,000 rays per second, while in Corona 10 for 7900 X3D we have 9 million and something small rays per second. Now in Cinebench R23 for 9800 X3D, this is the best score. I think this is the best score that I got. So the thermals were 79.8 degrees, 5225 megahertz clock speed, and 22,310 Cinebench scores. This is an average of 10 runs, so this is actually really good. And then we go with Cinebench R23 with 7900 X3D. We have average of 84 degrees, 4885 megahertz clock speed, and 26,253 Cinebench score. Of course, this also is impacted by the cooling. So we have HydroShift 2 cooling the 9800 X3D, and we have the Levante X360 cooling down the 7900 X3D. Then we go with Corona 1.3, 9800 X3D took 63 seconds to finish the render with 7.6 million rays per second, while the 7900 X3D took 50 seconds with 9.6 million rays per second. This is all down to the cores basically, so we might see a slight oscillation, but nothing too drastical. And then we go with Geekbench 6. The 9800 X3D has in single core 3296, while the multi-thread score has 18,481. In Geekbench 6, 7900 X3D, single thread score is 2856, while the multi-thread score is 17,978. What you get with this is somewhat a faster response, better latency without a doubt, and that's incredible. I mean, I know some of you guys, when I reviewed the past CL28 memory sticks, people were asking, where did you get them? I know there is a huge interest in lower latency RAMs, and these ones are really epic. When you take into consideration all the benchmarks that are shown you, comparing it to two different processors, two different setups actually, they do perform quite nice. Of course, we have to take into consideration that some scores are basically impacted by the CPU and of course the cooling, but in general what you can compare, well, basically comparing Urban V RGB, the CL32 that I had on 6400 megahertz, and these ones are just also brilliant, and I'm really loving the design. They are so nice for the visual aspect. Solid and high quality material. When we're talking about, when you actually feel them in your hand, you'll notice that these are completely different to some others that I reviewed and that I had in my hand in general. But yeah, quite epic. I'm really enjoying KLEVV products when we take into consideration the quality, the performance, and everything all together. They are just there, and the price is also quite nice. So guys, if you're interested in CL28 KLEVV Urban V RGB 2x16, 2x24, 2x32 at 6000 megahertz, you can definitely check them out. In the description below I have the link for everything that you might need to know additionally. And that'll be all for today, guys. If you like the video, if you have additional comments, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, click the notification bell, and I'll see you soon in another video, which is coming soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.